Hey Airbnb family, Sean with Airbnb Automated. Thanks for watching this video, choosing the right property to host on Airbnb, video number 1. Now there will be 3 videos on this, so today we're going to talk about a few of the misconceptions when choosing a property, a little bit of the operation stuff, but those kinds of things will get covered in the next 2 videos. So I currently have 20 properties, and on Airbnb alone, I made over $40,000 last month, and I even made a lot more off of Airbnb doing direct bookings and other stuff like that, which strategy for revenue is another video as well. But in this video, I'm going to teach you how I got to 20 properties, or at least we're going to do the first video of the 3. So misconception number 1, let's get right to it. And I couldn't choose a better city to do this video in. We're in Miami. So we're off of Brickell at the W, and if you see behind me, there are plenty of high-rises right here that people rent or own, and then they Airbnb out. If you look at the market in Airbnb in Miami, if you search it, you'll see tons of hosts. Now, this is about supply and demand. Everybody thinks Miami is a great market to be a host in because there's so many people that come in for Art Basel and Ultra Music Festival, or just winter season and the spring break. But where there are many, many customers, there are also many, many suppliers. And now we have a supply and demand problem here. You'd rather be in a market that is underserved instead of one that is overserved. And Miami is an overserved Airbnb market. So that's number 1. Choose your city based on supply and demand. Second, Miami is a seasonal market. This is another thing about Miami you would have to consider. You might make a good amount of money in the hot season, but if you think about the summer when people aren't traveling to Miami as much and there's all these suppliers, how much money might you lose on your property? And what would be your backup plan? If you can't host on Airbnb because it's too slow, what else could you do with your property to make your money? So if you're in a seasonal market, you have to ask yourself, what is my contingency? And can I make this work in my slow season? So that is number 2. Number 3, it's a battle of blocks with hospitality. If you're booking a hotel or booking an Airbnb, people want to be somewhere and they want to be right there. So if you're a block away from the convention center, you can charge a premium. If you're 3 blocks from the convention center, you charge a little bit less. If you're 10 blocks from the convention center, you might be too far away and you're no longer relevant, unless there's a huge event and everything else is booked and you finally become the closest. So there's reasons why people book on Airbnb. People are either price sensitive, or they're amenity sensitive, or they're location sensitive. So when booking or choosing a listing to book, location, location, location. So it's a battle of blocks. Do not compromise your strategy over 2 blocks from where you want to be, because it's not going to work like you want it to, and it will cost you profitability. The next thing you want to think about is local laws. Another Miami problem. Miami just passed a law forcing hosts to report every single short-term stay that they have. And I think that includes a background check now, which is a lot of burden on hosts. So if there's too much work to host, this will affect your scalability, your ability to handle multiple properties. This might even affect people's willingness to book with you. So this could really hurt Airbnb in Miami. And if the customer's experience isn't perfect, you're going to have a problem, right? So local laws matter. Let's give you an example, Texas. Airbnb has to pay the occupancy taxes in Texas for the hosts. So Texas loves Airbnb because they're guaranteed to get their occupancy taxes. So if a city, like with Uber, when Uber shut down Austin, Uber just went to the state and said, hey, we want to be statewide representable in Texas. And the state legislation passed laws that superseded Austin laws. And now Uber is everywhere and they're back in Austin again. So this could happen in Texas for a city for Airbnb, but the state would quickly shut it down because the state wants to get their taxes, right? So speaking of that local law problem, this is also about guest experiences. So if it's not that the Airbnb is required to report every short-term stay, there might be other guest experience problems. When you choose a property, you want to pick a property where it's easy for you to have a guest check-in. There's things like 24-hour check-in and self-check-in that matter for guests. And if you get a property that is an absolute bear to get into, this will affect your reviews. And when your reviews get affected, people won't book with you. So choose a property that you can actually make a system of check-in work. Otherwise, running around for keys, just guests don't want to do that. In fact, in Houston, I have a guy who stole my identity on Airbnb. He actually copied my host profile and then made 2 properties look almost identical to mine because nobody else in this building can host except for me, right? That's for another video too. But anyway, in order to hide his properties, he copied my profile, so maybe the property thought that it was just me adding 2 more on. So in order to keep these guests from talking to concierge though, he had these guests go to a restaurant down the street to go get their keys and then download August and use August to get in the door. All of this made it too complex, and then one day a guest comes up to concierge and says, I'm confused. Can you help me get into my Airbnb? Concierge calls me and says, Sean, you have a guest. I look at my bookings, I'm like, this isn't my guest. So I just happened to be by the building, so I kind of drove in and talked to the guest, and I saw that this was a fake profile claiming to be me. And this is how he got caught. And ladies and gentlemen, this is fraud. If you ever copy somebody's identity or fake their identity in order to make money or to cause somebody else loss, that is illegal. This guy very well could go to jail on this. Airbnb Legal is working on it right now. So now that I told you that he did it, I'm telling you don't do it because you don't want to go to jail. So that free tip aside, the second two videos we're going to do on Airbnb property selection, we'll talk a little bit more about how people can self-check-in, so what kind of property you want. We're talking about profitability compared to your hotel competitors. Those are your main competitors, and we covered that in the previous video. So when you choose your property, you want to actually compete against local hotels. So we're going to talk about your pricing strategy, because you want to plan your pricing strategy before you invest in a property. We're going to talk about whether or not the building stages well for photos, things like that. So if there's anything you want me to cover also when it comes to property selection, I invite you to leave a comment below, and I will try to include it in one of the 2 future videos. That way, you can grow your Airbnb business and we can all be successful. So thank you for watching Airbnb Automated. I will catch you on the other side.